From Anshe Sfard Beth El Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Pesach, different shades of memory. There's one word in the Pesach Haggadah that's matter of dispute among various authorities, and it presents an interesting question and quandary. And that is in what's known as a korech, the sandwich, the Hillel sandwich. After we eat the matzah and the maror separately, we take the matzah and maror and we sandwich them together. And we say, Zecher l'mikdash ki Hillel, in memory of the days of the temple, just like Hillel, the great sage, used to do. That's what Hillel did when the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, was in existence. He used to sandwich Pesach, matzah maror, v'ochlam biyachad. He used to put the Pesach, the Paschal lamb, the matzah, and the maror, the bitter herbs, in one sandwich and eat them together. As it indicates in the Torah that we should eat the matzah and the maror on or with the Paschal lamb with the sacrifice. All three together. What's the matter of controversy? In some texts it says, this is what Hillel used to do. He used to put the matzah and the maror and eat them together. The matzah and the maror? Where was the lamb? If we're talking about what Hillel did during the time of the temple, well, surely in the time of the temple, if he believed that it must be one sandwich, if he believed that the verse is referring to eating the lamb with the matzah and the maror, then surely in the days of the temple he used to eat matzah and Pesach and maror all together. Why do some Haggadot leave out the word Pesach as if he didn't eat the lamb? Rashi says that we should put the word in. The Rambam says no, he used to eat the matzah and the maror. What's going on? Why would we suggest that his sandwich, which surely had all three ingredients, we only mentioned two? The Taz, a later commentary, says, you know what? Even according to Rashi, that indeed the Paschal lamb was part of the sandwich, still, when we recite it, it's most appropriate for us to leave out the word Pesach. You know why? We're not talking about what Hillel used to do. We're talking about what we're doing, which is similar to what Hillel did. We're remembering Hillel. This is what Hillel did. He ate the matzah and the maror. Now, it may be true that Hillel also ate the Pesach. He ate the Paschal lamb with the other two ingredients, but we can't do that. And therefore, we can't remember that which Hillel did because we cannot perform all three acts. We just remember the two things that he ate together, and we eat them together, the matzah and the maror. However, this notion reminds me a whole lot of Rabbi Soloveitchik's notion of Zecher l'mikdash b'vinyano and Zecher l'mikdash b'churbano. All right, Soloveitchik pointed out that throughout the year there are certain practices which the rabbis ordain that we should do Zecher l'mikdash in order to remember the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, b'vinyano, just the way it was when it was built. And there are other things we do, Zecher l'mikdash b'churbano, to remember the temple the way it was in its time of destruction. For instance, there was an old custom that we used to leave a patch of our walls, unpainted, unfinished, without plaster, to remember the Mikdash. That's Zecher l'mikdash b'churbano. That's to remember the temple in its destruction. There's an opinion in the Talmud that when we count the Omer, we should leave out the weeks and only mention days. Because after all, Zecher l'mikdash is to remember the temple. And when you remember the temple, you want to remember it b'churbano, that it is destroyed in its destruction. And by doing the mitzvah in a half-baked way, we remember that there is no temple today. Sometimes we do mitzvot, Zecher l'mikdash b'vinyano, to remember the temple as it was in its glory. On Sukkot, we shake the 7 species of lulav in their full glory. We take the species exactly as they did in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, with nothing missing to it, according to most authorities. Because we're trying to remember that in the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, they shook the lulav not for one day, but for all 7 days. And now we shake it as if we were there in Jerusalem, remembering how wonderful it was in the days of the temple. Back to our Pesach sandwich. What would we like to remember? Do we want to remember that, oh yeah, look, we're taking the matzah and the maror, and it's just like Hillel used to do. Ah, what a beautiful memory to remember what Hillel used to do. Or do we want to say, Hillel used to take the Pesach, the matzah, and the maror, and Nebuch today, unfortunately, all I'm taking is the matzah and the maror. I don't have the Pesach. I don't have the Paschal Lamb. It's Zecher l'Mikdash b'churbanah. It's to remember the temple in its destruction. And by leaving an ingredient out, by remembering that we're leaving an ingredient out, this helps us remember that the temple is destroyed. What Rabbi Soloveitchik is telling us is that there are two forms of memory. If there's something from days gone by that was a wonderful thing, be it an individual, someone we remember, someone we lost, God forbid, be it a historic event or the dignity of our history as a people, we can remember it in happiness and we can remember it in sadness. We remember it in happiness how wonderful that person was. Remember in happiness how great the Jewish nation was in its land, in its day. And we can remember it in sadness. Hey, look how great it was, but look what we have today. We don't have what we used to have. And in that sense, it can bring us to sadness. Memory comes in two shades. When it comes to the korech sandwich, the memory is tinged. On the one hand, we want to bring the shade of good memory, that we're doing it exactly like Hillel used to do it, that the whole Seder is just like they used to do it in the olden days. On the other hand, we want to remember L'Shana Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. Halach Ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction. Hashata Hachai, this year we're here. This Hashata Avdei, this year we're still in some kind of servitude. And therefore, we take it's true that is the Seder. There may be a debate about this particular line, but the entire Seder, one might argue, has these two shadows of memory. The notion of memory to remember the good that once was, and the notion of memory to remember the bad, to remember the sadness of what's missing in the Seder. We have a choice as we remember sad events in the past. We can remember them with happiness. We can remember them with joy. We can remember individuals who are important parts of our lives with great happiness. We can also remember them in sadness. There's a time for both. When it comes to Korech, there are two versions of it. When it comes to the Seder as a whole, we have both elements. On the one hand, we sit like B'nai Chorin, we sit like free people, leaning and reclining as if to say, we remember we went out of Egypt and we're still out of Egypt. We remember that we lost the gods of Egypt, the idolatry. We still worship God. But yes, Hashata Avdei, this year, we're still in some sort of servitude, aren't we, in some ways? We're not fully independent in our own land, certainly those of us who live outside the land of Israel. And in that way, we remember both shades of memory, the good and the bad. Together, we get a picture of reality in which we can remember the good, but by remembering the days of old, it also is tinged with an element of sadness. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sephardi Beth El Emeth Congregation for a discussion of Pesach. Join us again next week here at the Anshe Sephardi Beth El Emeth Congregation. You can also visit us at asbee.net, asbee.org, and you're welcome to email me at rabbijmf@gmail.com. Thank you. Also like to thank Jason Lefkowitz for making today's presentation possible.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.